There's a specific kind of silence that only certain people understand. It isn't the silence of an empty room. It's the silence that happens inside their own head, right after they walk out of a conversation everyone else thought was completely normal. Because while the others were laughing, eating, joking, moving on with their evening, something inside them was quietly recording everything. The half-second pause before that answer, the smile that arrived a moment too late, the tone that softened only when a certain name was mentioned, the eyes that flickered away just before the lie. They didn't choose to notice. They never do. Their mind simply opens like a camera that was never given an off switch, and by the time the night ends, they are carrying 1,000 small details that nobody else even knew existed. And here is where the strange part begins. Most people walk through life seeing the surface. They hear the words. They believe the smiles. They accept the version of reality everyone agrees to perform. But these people, the ones who notice everything, live in a completely different layer of the world. They don't see what people show. They see what people are trying to hide. And that single difference quietly reshapes their entire emotional life in ways most of them never fully understand. Because noticing is not a hobby for them. It's a nervous system. It's something their brain has been doing automatically since they were small, long before they had the language to describe it. They were the child who knew their mother was crying behind a closed door, even when she came out smiling. They were the kid who could feel the tension between two adults before a single word was raised. They learned very early that words were not the most honest part of a person. Tone was, pauses were. The way someone's shoulders dropped when they thought no one was watching, that was the real sentence. And once a child learns to read the world like that, they never stop. But here is what almost nobody talks about. People who notice everything didn't always develop this awareness because they were gifted. Many of them developed it because they had to. Somewhere, in some room, in some quiet year of their life, paying attention became the only way to stay safe. They watched a parent's mood the way other children watched cartoons. They studied footsteps. They learned the meaning of a door closing too hard. Their nervous system understood, long before their mind did, that the smallest change in someone's energy could decide how the rest of the evening would go. And so their brain quietly rewired itself into something the world later called sensitivity, intuition, or intelligence. But underneath all those polite words, what really happened was simpler and far more painful. They learned to survive by watching. And once a child learns to survive by watching, the watching never stops. This is what makes them so misunderstood as adults. Because from the outside, it looks like they are just thinking too much. People tell them to relax, to stop over-analyzing, to let things go. But they're not overthinking, they're perceiving. There is a quiet difference, and almost nobody sees it. Their mind is not creating problems out of nothing. It is detecting patterns that have always been there, only invisible to everyone else. The friend who laughs a little too loud to hide something. The partner whose silence shifted shape 3 days ago. The co-worker whose kindness has a strange weight behind it. They don't imagine these things. They simply have a built-in instrument that picks up frequencies most people are not trained to hear. And this is the part that begins to break them quietly from the inside. Because noticing everything sounds beautiful until you realize what it actually costs. When you can read people that deeply, you can never fully enjoy them the way others do. You see the insecurity hiding behind their confidence. You see the loneliness inside their laughter. You see the fear behind the bragging, the exhaustion behind the politeness, the resentment buried inside the compliment. And once you start seeing these things, you can't unsee them. Every interaction becomes layered. Every conversation has a second meaning. You sit at the dinner table with people you love, and part of you is fully present, while another part is silently writing reports about everyone at the table. That is the first hidden wound of people who notice everything. They are never fully in the moment. They are always slightly outside of it, watching it, analyzing it, decoding it. And after years of doing this, something strange happens to them emotionally. They start to feel like they are living life through glass. They participate, they laugh, they care, they love, but a part of them is always observing from one step behind, taking notes the world never asked them to take. And then comes the deeper layer, the one almost no one talks about. The more they notice, the more lonely they become. Not because they lack people, but because the people around them rarely see what they see. Imagine knowing a friend is slowly drowning, but everyone at the table is celebrating because she's smiling. Imagine sitting at a wedding and feeling the bride's anxiety pressing against the walls while everyone toasts to forever. Imagine watching a coworker manipulate a room with charm and being the only one who can feel the cold engine running underneath. You can't say anything. Nobody would believe you. You'd sound dramatic, paranoid, negative, too much. So you swallow it, you smile, you nod. You participate in a reality you no longer fully believe. And slowly, quietly, that becomes its own kind of loneliness. The loneliness of being the only person in the room who is actually awake. But here is where the psychology gets even more uncomfortable, because their awareness eventually turns inward, and that is where the real exhaustion begins. They don't just analyze others, they analyze themselves with the same merciless lens. Every word they said, every laugh that came out too loud, every silence they left at the wrong moment, every text they sent that could have been written better. Their mind replays it all, dissects it all, judges it all. They feel an emotion, and immediately their brain stands above that emotion, questioning whether it's valid, whether it's logical, whether they're allowed to feel it. They can't even rest inside their own feelings. They watch themselves feel the way they watch everyone else live, and this is what slowly drains them in a way that's hard to explain to anyone who hasn't lived it. They are tired in a way sleep cannot fix, because their tiredness is not physical. It's the tiredness of a mind that has been processing the unspoken weight of every room it walked into, the micro-expressions, the contradictions, the half-truths, the emotional debris no one else picked up. They come home from ordinary days and feel like they just finished an exam nobody scheduled. They lie in bed at night and their mind starts opening files, conversations from hours ago, weeks ago, years ago, replaying them with a level of detail that feels almost cruel. And then comes the part that quietly hurts them most. Because they understand everyone so deeply, they accidentally become the person everyone leans on, while no one ever leans back. People feel safe around them because they sense that this person sees them, truly sees them, in a way most others don't. So they pour their stories, their pain, their secrets, their unprocessed emotions into this quiet, observant human being who always seems to know the right thing to say. But almost no one ever asks them how they are really. People assume they're fine because they always seem composed, thoughtful, in control. But the truth is, the person who reads everyone the most clearly is often the person nobody bothers to read at all. They become a mirror everyone looks into, while nobody ever looks at the mirror itself. And this is the moment when many of them start doing something very dangerous. They start hiding, not physically, but emotionally. They begin softening their perceptions to fit into rooms that can't handle them. They start pretending to not notice the lies. They laugh at jokes they secretly find sad. They agree with opinions they can already see the cracks in. They learn to dim the lighthouse inside them because the world keeps flinching from the brightness. And slowly, they become very skilled at one of the most painful talents a human can develop. The talent of disappearing while still being present. But here is the twist almost nobody sees coming. The awareness that exhausts them is also the exact thing the world quietly depends on. Because in a world full of noise, performance, masks, fake smiles, and rehearsed sentences, the people who notice everything are the ones who catch the truth before it explodes. They sense the friend slipping into depression months before anyone else does. They feel the relationship cracking long before the breakup. They smell the dishonesty in a deal before the contract reveals it. They are the early warning system of the human world. Quiet, underestimated, often ignored, but strangely essential. The world doesn't always thank them, but the world would be lost without them. And maybe this is the truth they have to come back to, again and again, especially on the nights when their mind refuses to rest. The goal was never to notice less. They cannot turn off a nervous system that was shaped by years of paying attention. The real goal is much quieter than that. It is learning that noticing something does not mean carrying it. It is learning that seeing someone's pain does not make them responsible for healing it. It is learning that perceiving every detail does not mean every detail belongs to them. Their awareness is a gift, but only when it stops being a debt. Because in the end, the people who notice everything are not too sensitive, not too intense, not too much. They are simply more awake than the rooms they walk into. And being awake in a sleeping world will always feel lonely at first. But somewhere out there is a moment waiting for them. A moment where someone looks them in the eyes and finally says the words they spent their whole life saying to others, "I see you, the real you, not the version you perform." And in that moment, every detail they ever carried, every silence they ever decoded, every emotion they ever absorbed without being asked, will finally feel like it meant something. Because the people who notice everything were never broken. They were simply built to see what the world keeps trying to hide. And one day, they'll understand that this wasn't a curse at all. It was a quiet kind of power that took them their entire life to recognize. If something inside you whispered, "This is me," while listening to this, you already know what to do. Stay a little longer. Subscribe so the next layer finds you when you need it. Like the video so someone else who feels the world too deeply can finally feel understood tonight. And in the comments, tell me one thing. When did you first realize you were noticing what nobody else was? Because somewhere in that memory is the moment your mind became different from everyone else's.